Part 1, getting things going. So you'll get into the 3D platformer tutorial and you'll open up the game. We need to get Lerpz someplace useful, and a good useful place would be by the jailhouse. So we type in jailhouse in the hierarchy, double click on it, and it takes us there. Now we can get it out of the hierarchy and just Alt move around and maybe move someplace like right there. The other thing I guess we need to do right away too is make sure that you're set up properly with all your different windows. So I'm going to go to some other way, and then maybe go to 2x3 if you haven't done this before, and move your project down here. And then we like to have a list, one column layout like that, and everything should be alright like that. And the other thing that you do want though is the console showing. So I'm going to put the console. If you're on your laptop you might not have room for it, but it'd be nice if that was showing all the time. I'm going to move right in the middle there to show us the errors, and all three of those should be showing the cautions and the errors and the information. So, and actually I don't really like that exactly there. How about down at the bottom? Okay, and then just adjust these. Okay, that's probably good. So now we're going to go looking for Lerpz in the project. So here's where all your files are in the project, and you're going to put them on your particular level. So the hierarchy shows the particular given level. So we're looking for Lerpz. And again, I want to see this in a list. I guess we are, so we're going to zoom out like that. Okay, so one column like that is what I prefer. And there it is, Lerpz, the model. And up here we've got to get to our, what do we say, jailhouse. So I lost that somehow. Now it's back. Right. Okay, so I'm going to move my Lerpz model up here close to the jailhouse. And I'm going to zoom in or double click on him. That'll do it. The other thing that will work is if you move your mouse over and you go F to focus. And that's good. We're going to rename Lerpz player. And be careful not to put a space in anything that you're naming. That will cause the script to not know what it's looking for, because it'll be looking for player without a space, and you've got player with a space and no spaces at the end. Enter. And when we play right now, that's what it's going to look like in the actual game. And you can maximize on play. But the problem with maximizing on play, when you play, is that you can't see errors in the console, for example, and you can't see what's going on where you were looking at in the scene. So it's good to not maximize on play and be able to watch both what's going on in your scene and actually the way that it would look in the game. So we don't have any camera swooping in on him. We have a camera. There it is. Whenever you click on cameras, you can see the camera preview there. If I click on lights, for example, the lights become active. If I click on near camera, I see the preview. So that's what it's seeing right now, and you can see it down here, of course. So, I mean, we can zoom out and see where the near camera is. There it is. Right, that's what it's looking at. I'm going to zoom back in on the player. So anyway, we want the camera to zoom in on Lerpz. So we're going to add from this project, there's a script called spring follow camera. Spring is in, it springs in and it follows something. So we're going to move that onto our main camera, which is called near camera. And so now when you click on the near camera, you're going to see that that script is there. And it's got a bunch of variables. Most of them are selected and they're fine the way that they are, but one is not selected, and that is the target. And as you can imagine, the target is the player. So what we do is we drag it, because it says it's a transform. It just, whoops, it just needs it just needs a transform. And a transform is any game object, basically. It's anything that has position, rotation, and scale. And player does, so we're going to move the player to be the target of this script. So now, it's still not quite going to work, because in order for it to work perfectly, you can see it down there, it requires the object that it's following to be a third-person controller. So we go down here and we look up third-person controller, and we're going to place that script on the player. So now the player, you see if I click on the player over in the inspector, I see that it's got this third-person controller script. It is a third-person controller now. And you can see, well, we'll fix that in just a moment. Let's play it, and you'll see that, fine, it's zooming in on the player, but the player is dropping. So the camera's working, but the player is dropping. The reason the player is dropping is that when we look at the player, it actually has this third-person character controller that the script is controlling, and it's too low right now. This pill-shaped thing that's green is down below the surface, and so he's not stopping at this surface, he's falling all the way through. So what we're going to do is find that offset, and you got X, Y up and down. So it's the Y that needs to be adjusted so it's not touching the ground, and that will do. So now we've got the camera, which has a script which follows a player as long as it's got a character controller, and the player does have a character controller along with the script, so everything should work. So the camera will zoom in on Lerpz. Now he can move at this point because he's got a character controller, but he's not animated. He doesn't know how to jump, and well, I guess he can jump, but he doesn't have any animations yet. So we'll do one last thing in this first part of the tutorial, and that is we'll put one other script on the player that allows him to be animated. So it's going to be some sort of a script that's got animation, third person player animation. That's the one. So that also goes onto the player. And you'll see the running speed, walking speed. I think those are probably fine, but you can, well, running speed, we might as well make it running speed a little bit higher. And now we can play. The camera will zoom. He will stay up and not fall through, and he can both move and animate when he does. So we play it. Camera zooms in, and he's animated. And now you might want to, just to see what it's really going to look like, finally maximize on play, and play one last time for this first stage. Spring camera follow in, and he moves. So that's it for stage 1.